if you want to be a truly amazing, even more amazing organization than you are now, you want to create a team where people don't need to be told what to do. And they come to work full of passion and a sense of mission and purpose, and they go home with a sense of accomplishment because they did it, not because they were simply extensions of my will. That's what we're going to talk about today. There's this tension in work. If work were all one way or the other, of course it would be easy, but there's always this tension in work. Like sometimes I say, yeah, I just need you to do, like it just needs to work. The server needs to run. We got to protect the client data, whatever it is. Like some part of it is that, but then there's also, and I need you to be creative and think. But sometimes I just need you to wear your hard hat. And I'm just gonna bluntly say there's two different kinds of work that we do engage in during the day. Two distinct mental processes, which I'm going to call blue work and red work. Blue work is thinking work. Blue work is cognitive work. Blue work is represented by that get more people to do independent thinking answer. Then there's red work. Red work is process work. Red work is about reducing variability and having predictability and controllability. And red work is represented by people just need to do what the process is. We need process discipline. The key is the way you manage blue work and red work is different. And throughout the day and throughout our week, we're going to flip between red work and blue work. And if we have the same management style all week long, then the management style is not going to fit at least half the time, right? Because the way we manage red work is about being in control and taking control and statistical process variability and that kind of thing. But the way we manage blue work is about giving control. So we need to understand, am I doing red work or blue work? And have I matched the correct management process to the kind of work that I'm doing? What happens is we're in production work. We're in production work. We're coding, we're talking to clients, we're running servers, we're rolling out the next update. That's all good production work. But we need a mechanism to flip us out of production to goes to blue work, and we say, are we doing the right thing? My objective was to make it as easy as possible to flip out of the red work into the blue work. To lower those, whatever those barriers are that keeping people from saying, yeah, I'm not sure about this. These torpedoes are big deals. This is this green shape here. This is the torpedo right here. Green means war shot, has a bomb in the front. If you see this on the beach and it's green, don't touch it. Okay? Call the government. So you don't want to touch it. So here we are, we're going to load it. We're in Sasebo, Japan. We take it from a ship. We put it here. This involves hydraulics and cranes and straps and metal and big things that could hurt you. Well, I was all about giving my team control, and I gave them too much control, and we were setting up to do this, and we dropped one of the pieces of gears before we actually had the torpedo. So we didn't drop a torpedo, but we dropped one of the pieces of gear. Very scary. And it dropped, made this big thud. If someone had been underneath it, they would have been severely injured or killed. I was shaking. I ran out, what was that? And it turned out that there was this unusual lineup of how the hydraulic system was working, which wasn't the way it normally worked, and I had given too much control. I had been irresponsible in giving control, because I thought empowerment was a program, period, and full stop. And now I'm going to take you to the control, competence, clarity. Up at the top here, the leader has given control to the team, and down at the bottom, the leader has retained all control. Because I think what I had done was, I had just given so much control that was unwarranted based on the team's technical knowledge and their understanding of what we're trying to achieve. And when you don't want this, you need this. You got to move up and to the right. And this is where robots and AI keep eating. So you need to go in that, you need to be in the blue and be moving that way, okay? And this is where I was like, hey, the whole thing is wrong, forget it, I'm just gonna go back and be a command and control leader. And my team was like, I don't know, I think we're on the right track, we let you down, we think that we're missing a piece. So empowerment by itself is not a program. Control is decision-making or empowerment, right? You gotta tune it. The word we use now is tune. You gotta tune it to how much confidence and clarity the team has. And so we write, again, because you guys are like equations, I wrote this equation. The control is a function of confidence and clarity plus Z. We always say the leader leads it. The leader wants to give a little bit more control. And how big that Z is, it determines how fast you can move up and to the right. But you can make it too big. And one of the problems is if I don't know the variable, I assume 0. This is not a rule, but it's just what we see doing. In other words, if I don't know, let's say I have no visibility into your competence. Why? I'd say I just hired you. You're brand new. I don't know how competent you are. Hey, I see you have some degrees, blah, blah, blah. You passed the interview process. But really deep in my heart, am I going to trust my reputation and my bonus on you? I don't think so. And so the event is if I don't know someone's competence, I assume 0. The result is, since I'm assuming 0, the tendency is to over-control them because it's probably greater than 0. So one of the things that companies do that want to do this is they create mechanisms for making these things discoverable and transparent throughout the company. We gave 35 written exams every year to my officers. Hard written exams that you could fail. Most companies don't do that. But the result of that was I had a very nuanced sense of their level of competence, which allowed me to tune very exquisitely the level of control I gave to my officers. And finally, the Z factor is a function of the learning orientation in the organization and the sense of psychological safety. Because if I can't stretch a little bit, then I'm going to be afraid to say, well, here's what I think. Right? If it were me, I'd be making this call. Because now I can be judged, I can be wrong. It'd just be easier to say, yeah, tell me what to do. That way, if it goes bad, I can just blame you. We don't normally have the honesty to say that, but that's what we're thinking. One of our main tools is the ladder of leadership. The ladder of leadership is a language-based approach to empowerment. It's the way we can incrementally, in small steps, give people the words so that they'll feel like they have more authority. At the bottom of the ladder of leadership, we have the traditional tell me what to do relationship, where the boss tells people what to do. In other words, the boss is leaning into their directs, the boss is directing, and they're reporting back. And what we say is you want to level up people. You want to invite them to the next level. So instead of telling them what to do, when they come to you with a problem and you have that impulse, oh, I know the answer, let me tell you what to do, you resist the impulse to tell them what to do, and instead you invite them to what do you see. The very first step off of tell me what to do is observation and description without judgment. Observation and description occurs in a part of the brain that is not connected to emotions, and therefore it feels safe. Hey, I'm just telling you what I see. So for example, on the submarine, it might be, hey, we got a problem with the pump. What should we do? Well, tell me more about that. I can feel it vibrating in the deck, and it's shaking a little bit on the foundation. Oh, okay. Then we invite them, what do you think? What's going on? Hey, what do you think's happening? Well, I think the bearings are going bad. And then the next step up is, what do you think we should do? That's a recommendation. And then the next step up is, what do you intend to do? Now here's where we shift. Initiative and ownership has shifted squarely onto the shoulders of the subordinate. And as a boss, we've now become a leader where we've leaned back gradually, incrementally, small steps which made it safe, and The team member is now leaning into us, telling us what they think and what they think should happen and what they intend to do unless we stop them. And it's very powerful. So the ladder of leadership is the way we translated this fuzzy notion of empowerment into very specific language cues that we could listen to as leaders and that we could use as followers in order to step ourselves up the empowerment and the engagement ladder. So this framework is about being a knowing but not telling leader. Now, normally, leaders think they want to be a knowing and telling leader. This is what I thought when I went to be the captain of the submarine. So we have these 4 quadrants: knowing and telling, not knowing and telling, not knowing and not telling, and knowing and not telling. Now, normally the way most leaders operate is if I know the answer, I'm going to tell the team, and this is the desired place. So I'm up here in the knowing and telling quadrant. And the better I am at telling my team what to do, the faster we can create production, the faster we get stuff done, and I feel better about myself being as a leader. If I don't know the answer, then I tend to be a not knowing and not telling leader. In other words, I say, yeah, I'm not sure, let's figure that out together. My journey took me through these quadrants where when I went to the Santa Fe, I did not know, but I tried to be a telling leader. That didn't work. I made a commitment with my team not to give commands, so I was the submarine commander who didn't give commands. And I still didn't know the ship, so I was not telling and not knowing. But eventually I learned the submarine. So I became a knowing leader, and I'd seen how powerful it was to not tell my team what the answer was, because when you do that, you're developing leaders, not just developing people who need you to tell them what the answer is. So I broke the linkage between knowing and telling and not knowing and not telling, and I tried to live up here in this quadrant, which was the knowing but not telling quadrant. And this is very hard to do, because when you know the answer, or you think you know the answer, and your team comes up to you and they say, hey, we got a problem, what should we do? You know, you just want to tell them what to do so we can go and we can start doing it and everything is good in life. But what you've not done is you've not developed leaders, and you've not created a team that's independent. You've not helped them think on their own. What you've done is just made them dependent upon you. So the idea is know your job, know the answers as much as possible, but you decide whether you want to be a telling or not telling. So break the linkage between knowing and telling and not knowing and not telling, and try and operate in this knowing but not telling quadrant, where you're focusing on the long term and you're focusing on building leaders rather than just people doing what they're told. The other problem with operating in the knowing and telling quadrant is you stifle learning in the team. And finally, you might not actually know. You might just think you know, and then that 1 in 100 times when you don't know, because you're operating in this knowing telling domain, the team still does what they're told and bad things happen. That's why you want to operate in the knowing but not telling quadrant. We're fighting fire here. Fire is a very serious deal in a submarine. Here we got fire exits. Submarines, no fire exits. You can't get off. You don't fight the fire, you die. We call that motivation. Now, we were not very good when I first got to the ship. We sit down, you're supposed to take 2 minutes to get a fire hose. 2 minutes. That's what science says. And it would take us 2 minutes, 2:15, 2:33, 3:50, and we'd all be simulated dead. And we'd say, well, what happened? And I heard a lot of they. Well, they didn't do this, and they didn't pressurize the hose, and they didn't hang up the gear, and they didn't change the batteries, and they. And I got so mad, I got so pissed off about this they, because we were all living within 200 feet of each other. And I said, There's no they on Santa Fe. I forbid the word. And when you're the captain of a ship, you can do things like that. We're going to use the word we. And they're like, oh, okay. And so we started saying we. Now, the next day, the engineer comes up to me, and he can't fix his pump because the supply department didn't get the right part. That's what he wants to say. We had days by department, days by rank, lots of days. He comes up to me. I'm standing in the control room. He comes up to me. I look at him. He says, hey, Captain, I got some bad news. Yeah, what's up? Can't fix the main seawater pump because I'm not saying anything. I'm just looking. And he says, because we ordered the wrong part. And I just look at him. He starts backing up. He's going. It was awesome, right? When you say we, there's no blame, there's no recrimination. And what happened was really, really interesting. 6 months later, people came down the submarine and I would say, oh my gosh, this is such a culture of teamwork. And I would joke, I would laugh. I would say, we don't have a culture. What we have is a rule that we say the word we. And what had happened was, by saying we actually rewired our brains. And so when I saw the person in supply or I saw the chief or I saw it actually felt like we. We is the word we use for our team. If you want to know where the team ends, don't look at the org chart. Just listen to how people talk and say, oh yeah, we're in the ops team over here. Oh, they're in new technology. Two different teams. You can say whatever you want. Put whatever post was up. It's the we, they. That gives it away. And so the way to create one bigger team is just expand that we circle just a little bit. Just practice saying we. And eventually your brain's going to say, well, they keep saying we, so that must be on my tribe. So that synapse will grow together, and it'll feel like they're on the tribe. It's a really cool thing that happens.